welcome back to the latest edition of the Jake's Take with Jacob Elyachar Podcast. I'm your host, Jacob Elyachar, the chief content producer and writer of JTWJE.com, a pop culture entertainment news website. If you're watching us on YouTube, please give us a thumbs up and please subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you're listening to all this on our audio platforms, please give us the 5-star rating, download this episode and more episodes after this show. I'm thrilled to welcome our latest set of guests. They are, the first guest is David Rosenberg. He's an actor who's worked with the likes of Ron Howard and Olympia Dukakis, who's also a stand-up comedian and teacher. My next guest is Susan Gorrell. She is the president and producer of Oakmill Entertainment, and her family has been in the entertainment industry for a total of 50 years. Together, they are the respective director and producer of Bridging the Gap movie, the Building Bridges of Hopes through talks with dozens of Americans across the country. Dave and Susan, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Welcome.
Yes, Jacob.
Yeah.
First of all, thank you guys so much for taking time out of your schedule today. I really appreciate it. And I want to give a very special shout out to our mutual friend, B. Kimmel, who connected us.
She's amazing.
She's the best.
Absolutely. We love you, B. So enjoy. I hope you and Coco and David are enjoying the summer.
Yes.
All righty, guys. Now that we got that out of the way, I would love to know how you guys met.
Dave?
Okay. So we made a movie together in 2019 called The Reunion. It was about confronting my childhood bully. It was a movie that I was trying to get made for about 15 years based on my experiences growing up. Before we made the movie, I was driving cross country, and the director said you should check out the Julian Dubuque Film Festival, which is Susan's film festival in Iowa. It's a fantastic, burgeoning, growing film festival. Because we were looking for a producer. At that time, we were interested in somebody. And so I got to talk to Susan a little bit about, do you think this is the right person? And, just a little bit about producing. And I had never made a movie, a feature film like that before. So we just had a great conversation at the hotel where her festival happens, in the restaurant. And then after that, once I got to New York and I was working with my two partners, we asked Susan to kind of help us get started. So she helped us with a pitch deck and some other kind of just starter things. And then working together, we just really enjoyed working with her. So we asked her, would you stay on? And so she became our producer for, years, probably.
Yeah. Yes, it was great. And then when Dave called me about this idea, he's had some other great ideas along the way, and I just hasn't worked out for me. And then when he asked about this, I'm like, it's a great idea. I think I'll help produce that. And he said, yeah, but I really want you to be like the other character in it. I'm like, oh, I don't do camera. Camera makes you 5 pounds, makes you 10 pounds fatter, and I don't need 10 more pounds. Yeah. So it took a little convincing. I'm like, and even doing it, I felt really, it's just not in my comfort zone. So I'm behind the camera for a reason, but I enjoyed it. And it was really nice that he asked, and I'm glad he did.
And she was great.
Which is wonderful to hear. And Susan, kudos to you for getting outside your comfort level. There have been some instances where I hated to get outside my comfort level, but I did it. But I think we all have to get outside our comfort level at any time.
I will say, and Susan, this is probably the first time I said this to you, I'm probably as uncomfortable producing and being behind the scenes as you are in front of the camera. I just
see. So you guys perfectly complement each other.
Perfect. Yeah. So let's never do that again.
Yeah.
All right. When B heard about this idea, I thought this was a brilliant idea. But I would love for a film, documentary. But I would love if you could please share Bridging the Gap's origin stories with my audience.
Well, it's so interesting because, my film, The Reunion, took about 15 years to get made. I started when I was 27 and ran into my childhood bully. And then we made it when I was 42. This was the opposite. This happened within a couple of months. Like I have a bunch of ideas and scripts that I'm writing and such. And God's just like this one, and I go, okay, God, well, then we'll do this one. So a few months ago, I reached out to Susan and we had a conversation. I'm not sure if it was before or after we decided to do the movie. I think it was before. Where the election had just happened. I'm not a big fan of Trump, but I'm trying to, learn more and such. And I reached out to Susan. I said, I have a question for you. You don't have to answer it. I'm not going to talk at all. I'm just going to listen. In fact, I'll mute my line. And I said, why do you support this person? And Susan talked to me for about 20, 25 minutes. And although I didn't necessarily agree with everything and still am not a fan, it made sense to me. It helped to enlighten me in terms of what people in the middle of the country may be thinking. And it was a totally different perspective and point of view than I was hearing in Los Angeles and that I was seeing through the algorithms that come to the liberals and the algorithms that come to et cetera, and so forth. And then, for the last couple of years, I've just been really upset about what's happening in the country, particularly with the divide and families being torn apart, colleagues not talking to each other, friends not talking to each other. And I just thought this is ridiculous, And so as an artist, what can I do? And it was really the most obvious idea in the world. It just took some balls to do it. I hope I can say balls.
You can.
So I just talked to Susan and I asked her, and to be honest with you, I was really surprised that she kind of just said, "Yeah, it's a great idea." And I said, "Well, if you're willing to do this, then let's set some timelines and let's start spending money because that's how you make a movie."
Yeah, and I think too what Dave is saying, and it's true. I like the idea because I'm not a real vocal political person. I don't feel like politics define your character. It's really your character is defined by you as a person. So I really don't care how you vote. That's to me is a very private thing, and I don't let my choices reflect like what I as far as like even like with the film festival, things are always done. I don't if you have a really good product and you're shot well and your acting's great, you may have a story that maybe I don't necessarily agree with, but that doesn't matter. It's not about what I agree with. It's about what I see in the product and along as well as my other team. So that's always really, really important to me. And but I told him, I said, I really like this idea because I just feel like there's more of us that just want to get along and enjoy each other's company than fighting and arguing like the way that social media says that we are.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, that's what I've discovered along the way is because we're all in our different turnstiles. And like when the thing is, when people pass away, and it's just like it's just awful. And like you're gonna have a lot of people are gonna have to, it's gonna take something so awful and so tragic to get out of their comfort zones and realize about the people that they miss. Because the thing is, when they get to 60 or when they get to when my generation gets to 40 and 60. And after losing some people along the way, along some loved ones, God forbid, along the way, they're going to have to realize they have to make peace because once we live our planet, that's it.
I remember to what you're saying. I remember Shaquille O'Neal after Kobe died, saying, God, I wish I would have gone back and patched up with him. All this stuff was ego and it was nonsense, and this was my little brother. And I think Shaq even cried like on TV. So. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, I don't, and I'm not like even with me. I don't think people should carry grudges and hatred and anger. When you carry that, then that affects you personally, and then it just makes you more depressive. And so I'm like, you don't have to necessarily forget things that happened to you along the way, but you can learn to forgive. And I think forgiveness as well. And people, get so hooked up in this political divide that they just cause so much hatred. And I my biggest thing on the whole trip was I think social media plays a huge part of that. You can say whatever you want on social media and hate each other, and it's okay because you're protected by the internet. Whereas if you were face to face with people, you probably would never say the things that you do on social media.
And also, I think people have realized, and I admit that I have done this as well, especially since with my stuff going on with a lot of stuff going on since October 7th and everything. I admit that I've called out a lot of people, and at the same time, I'm like, okay, is this going to come back and bite me? Or and also with the thing is with with like trying to calm my impulses down, because the thing is, I'm an uncle, a nephew, and 2 nieces, and a lot of mention I have friends that I'm an honorary uncle to, and I'm like, I have to go back and say, have them explain why is Uncle Jacob acting this way if they see it, number one, and number two, how am I going to, God forbid I find my dream job with somewhere I want to work, how am I going to explain that? What if they say, why are you out like this? I'm going to have I have to think very hard and clear why I did on social media.
That's right. You do. And it's always there. It doesn't go away. People think you can remove it. It doesn't. It's there forever. So that's true.
Absolutely. So I want to get back to the film about the organization, because I'm very fascinated, because you guys mentioned a quick timeline of like going to different, like it was like month by month. So how did you guys how did you and your teams organize this film?
Go ahead.
Yeah, that's right. No, I mean, Dave had a lot of people sent out mass emails from across the U.S. of his connections to see if he can get some people that would want to be interviewed. We worked very closely with Braver Angels organization. They're amazing. They're across the U.S. as well. So they were able to bring some Republicans and Democrats and independents for us. And then we sat down and kind of mapped out, like Dave had some very specific places he really wanted to hit. And then based on people he knew, or maybe it was, we also wanted to include that this involved the crew of seeing things and experiencing things across the US. And then I had some connections. So throughout that, we were able to create this map of, okay, here's the towns. And then I worked out travel and where we go, because Dave was on the creative. I was more in the logistic of, and then saying to him, no, that's not going to work, Dave. And then him not being happy as a director. What do you mean that's not going to work? That'll work. I'm like, you can't drive 30 hours. So, the realistic of, making his dream and his visions come true, but also the realistic part of, okay, we're going to try to cram all this in and do these things. So we had great interviews. And Dave can add to it, but we had wonderful, fun things that we did along the way as well. It was really important. Dave really wanted to be in the kind of the center of America, which would be like around Dubuque, Iowa, and go to the Field of Dreams. So we got to play football, baseball. Baseball with the good players at Field of Dreams. Softball, yeah. So that was fun. And then we did Donaldson, my hometown. So, and 4th of July there. So a lot of really cool things that we did along the way.
And I think
we really wanted to keep it light. Me and Susan, I think our friendship survives on humor, and we wanted to get this very heavy topic. And we had a lot of fun making fun of the seriousness of it. Particularly, Susan's brother came along, and he's a MAGA, self-described, wears the hat and all that. And I was really nervous, before he came. We had met once and got along, but there was some stuff there. And then the RV that he was driving showed up late, and I was getting very nervous about that.
Had problems.
And had some issues, and but we ended up getting along great. And we kind of, you see in the film, we ended up like just kind of being these two little kids that got to play and really kind of just sort of poke fun at the seriousness of it and go, guys, what are we doing here? In fact, there was one interview in Iowa that got very heated with the highest Republican in the Iowa land. And he came in pretty worked up with a very specific agenda, and he felt I was being biased, and he and I got into it, and it got ugly. And he actually was going to introduce Trump right after. So he might have been a little nervous. So, but it was interesting sort of juxtaposing that, which got very heated, which is what we're seeing across the country, with me and Philip like playing with dolls, playing with like Obama and Trump bobblehead. We just kind of like, it was just kind of like, really, do we need to be doing this when we could be doing this?
Yeah. And the thing is that I'm so happy that you did, because I want to talk about the stops that you went. Of course, you went to Los Angeles and New York City and Washington, D.C. It's the 3 big epicenters of financial, politics, and entertainment. But along the way, you also include stops in the Grand Canyon, Denver, St. Louis, Nashville, and Iowa. So why did you choose those cities?
Well, this is fun. So I have a little bit of OCD, and I'm an artist, and I really wanted to create a yin yang. So that was part of it. I told Susan I want to kind of have like a wave, like a yin yang, like this, and we have a map you'll see on our website. So that was part of it. And then Susan and I kind of went through and we're like, okay, where can we go within that? Where do you want to go? What's a good place to go? We wanted to balance out the, Republicans and Democrats. We didn't want to have a huge, imbalance there. So that was kind of the gist. And then like Susan lives in Iowa. I live in Los Angeles. Susan's brother lives in North Carolina. My cousin lives in Denver. So there was a lot of reasons to hit certain places.
And the thing that what I'm admired by is like, you guys were not, you guys made sure to tackle all the areas of the country of the 48 continental United States. And the thing is, I feel like overlooked because yes, it feels like the East Coast and the West Coast to us Midwesterners, and I'm proud I'm coming from Overland Park, Kansas, a suburb of Kansas City, in the Kansas City area, that we get overlooked sometimes because of because we're not either A, we're in the middle of the country, B, we don't have a center of power or gravitational forces where we bring in people, and C, a lot of people underestimate us, and I say never underestimate the Midwesterners, because the thing is, and I'm going to be honest, the reason why I moved to New York City over Los Angeles, because I rather have the honesty of the New Yorkers to my face than people smiling behind my back in LA while trying to, who say my friends, but they are plotting to stab me in the back.
Yeah. Well, it speaks to kind of one of the things that I think we learned, that so much is about perspective and point of view. And when we start talking to each other, we realize we're thinking a lot of the same things. Like me and Philip. Philip was really nervous driving the RV. I was really nervous. I was like, oh, he's this big MAGA bully guy and da-da-da. And, and it was like, no, he was feeling the same way. And he and I had both been bullied. And you bring up, feeling like ignored in the Midwest. I mean, in Los Angeles right now, my school is down by where ICE is having a field day. So, I mean, you can only imagine what people in Los Angeles are feeling. They're feeling attacked. They're feeling that they have to hide away in their houses. They have to go and get their birth certificates because they may get picked up. So, and they may look at the Midwest and go, oh, that's Trump country and Trump's in power. So I think when we start to talk to each other and realize, man, we're all going through it. We're all feeling fear. We're all fearing fear of the other. And we're not the other. We just have different points of view and perspectives. And it's really very similar to racism. What is racism? It's ignorance of not knowing the other. And once you get to know each other, that stuff starts to go away. And part of it, you're right, is geographic. On the ends tend to be pretty liberal, and then in the middle to be pretty conservative. So maybe everybody needs to get in an RV and start driving through the country.
Just don't do it in 17 days.
All right.
Or in the summer.
Or in the summer. Yeah.
I think my friends over at MTV with the Real World Alumni and Road Rules Alumni can talk about like living in an RV and everything. So,
well, I think, this movie is kind of a new genre. It's reality TV meets political documentary.
Which is awesome. And I want to talk to you guys about the challenges that you and your production teams face throughout this filming process, and how were you able to overcome those obstacles?
Oh, well, one major obstacle, it was really hot. I mean, we're traveling in the middle of summer. It happens to be heat wave all the way across. And, you're in a 35-foot RV with 8 people, and the mornings would be nice and cool, and we get in there, but later in the afternoon, the generator and the ACs can't keep up with the amount of heat, and it would get hot. So you're dealing with the heat, and it's like, you're on windy roads, and you're going up the mountains, and you just want to get off. So I think it was learning to balance that by I'm used to riding an RV. We did a lot of camping when I was a kid, but you've got like Dave and I think Nika and I'm not even sure Armin's ever been in RV, never rode an RV, so they're not expecting. One of the challenges I think was funny was I was initially telling everybody, I probably should have been more clear about it. Don't bring a lot of baggage. Bring like one bag. I mean, you're in RV, there's not that much room. And they're like coming with 3 or 4 bags, and they've got a guitar and all the stuff. I'm like, what? Like, we're not
leaving the guitar at home.
Yeah, I mean, and they've got this giant, we call it the pizza bag. It's huge. It looks like it could carry like 100 pizzas. And he's got all the merchandise and t-shirts. I'm like,
it was worth it because we had the bobbleheads in there. We had the hats in there. Come on.
What are you gonna do with this thing? So everybody's like, every time you're like, oh, that darn pizza bag, you gotta pick it up and move it. And so I those were, to me, were challenges. And personality wise, I mean, on a whole, honestly, you're gonna have things are gonna come up. We got along. We had issues, but we walked through them. But then it goes back to that thing. Like, I feel you move on from that. We have arguments. We have things come up. you're going to, but you can't carry that anger and that hatred. You just learn from it and move on from it. That's always important to me. But
It's so interesting.
Dave may say different. He has
No,
his own version.
No, I think, look, Susan and I met this morning. We had a meeting and we went through a lot. I mean, we went through a lot. Susan and I love each other, and we talk, once in a while if we're not doing a movie together, and when we're doing a movie together, we're talking once a week on Zoom. But we've never lived together for 20
I can't even live with my husband. So
I can't live with anybody. I live alone. I've lived alone for 35 years. So we're both very sensitive people, and I think we're kind of mirrors of each other. And I think God kind of set that up. So there was some fights, and it was hard. And it was painful, I think, for both of us. But seeing her today and seeing that we're rested, we're both coming back to ourselves. I look back and I go, that wasn't me. That wasn't Susan. That was our trauma. Like that was us really triggered. And the circumstances were such that it was very challenging. We were doing one of the hardest things, I think, that you can do. In an RV, 8 people, the heat, trying to bring the country together. I mean, it was really challenging. So, all of my shit came up. I remember saying to the crew in the beginning, my hardest job is not going to be interviewing, and it's not going to be directing. It's going to be trying to make sure you guys don't hate me by the end. Because I know that I'm very sensitive and things bother me, and it was really hard. But you know what? We made what I think is going to be a great movie, and I hope that the relationships can survive and heal.
Absolutely. I want to talk about the interviewees and the process, and where you made. I would love to learn about the stuff that you asked them. Like, for example, was it like how was it organized? Was it like, okay, one question would be like a liberal question, the other one would favor a conservative question, or were they all sprinkled around?
They had, for the first half or first 60 or 70% of the trip, they all had the same questions. So the first question was, how did you attain your political affiliation? So I wanted them to start with, what's the background story? What's their origin story, right? Was it their parents were Republicans, so they became Republicans? Or their parents were Republicans, so they became Democrats and they rebelled? Or there was a particular president that they loved, or there was an event that happened in the world or their life, so that both people can kind of see, again, perspective, story. So we don't start with the question of, what do you think of Trump? That's like, why don't you pour some explosives, into the mix?
Or what do you think of the squad? That pours another thing as well.
Of the what?
The squad.
I don't know.
That's right. The squad, the political squad, yeah.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. See, you guys are getting different news. I've never even heard that before. So then it was questions like, what do you fear? What is your greatest fear about the other side? What are some stereotypes about your side, right? And then towards the end, there was we did a fun thing of a word association. So I would say Nancy Pelosi, and they would say criminal, or lovely. And you say Trump, and they go horrible, the greatest, so that was kind of fun. And then at the end, we had them take 5 minutes to work together to try to come up with an action that they could take, whether they would take it or not. But going through that 5-minute process of, can they actually come up with a simple action? And I think that gave us a sense of maybe what we're seeing in Washington, how challenging it is to actually just come up with a simple solution. Because I'll tell you, I teach middle school, and it sounded like an easy prompt to me. It wasn't, because they started talking and theorizing, and I had to stop them and go, wait, stop. The prompt is, you guys get to come up with one simple action that you guys are going to take. So that was interesting.
And I will say, Dave did a very good job with the interviews. He did most of them. He tried to pull me in for some. I'm like, oh, I'm terrible at it. But he did do a very good job with that. Every now and then, I would the only time I really stepped in is if I felt like the conversation, maybe Dave was, because he's Democrat, would maybe bond more the Democrat, or, maybe the Democrats said something against Trump or against the president, and he would lean, and I would say, okay, we have to remember that it's really not about who's present, because you 50% didn't like the last president, you know, so it's about two political or three political parties of people coming together and not judging each other by your political affiliation. And, you know, and Dave's like, you're right, you're right. I mean, and the same thing with me. We just had to make sure we remained in the middle. We didn't favor any side. This was about, again, not about the president or any president. It's about political parties and why people choose a political party. And a lot of people, I think, found like, okay, here are my policies. If you give me, I may be registered Republican, but if you give me a Democrat that does these policies and my Republican doesn't, I'm going to vote Democrat. So I think we found a lot of that as well. And that was good. So, but he did a very good job with the interviews. And on a whole, most everybody was really good.
And it's getting people talking again, you know, getting people communicating again and realizing we're not the boogeyman. The other side is not the boogeyman. We just have different opinions. And I think social media, which is absolutely wonderful, and ChatGPT, I mean, these are just amazing things, but we may not be communicating as well as we did 25 or 30 years ago because we're all on our phones and we're texting and all that. We have to learn how to communicate again. We have to learn how to listen and not immediately trying to win a conversation. Conversations are not meant to be won or lost. They're meant to learn. We're meant to learn from each other. And we've become this debating society that doesn't really know how to debate, except for great debaters that are on TV, like, you know, Stephen A. Smith on First Take. But, you know, I think a big thing that I got from this is listen. Listen. Come from listening. Don't be furious, be curious. Something I heard recently.
That is a really good tagline. Be curious, not furious, which is like, there are some stuff issues that I have a harder time with. And it's like basically saying,
yeah. How much can you listen without having to jump in and defend yourself?
And it's hard too, because I admit, and when I talked to Yuval David in an earlier episode this year, I admit that sometimes actions like that can speak out. And like when Miss Rachel posted something, I spoke out about that. When Imagine Dragons posted something about that, I spoke out about that. When Joseph Ablin was talked about Michael Rappaport's inclusion on a Traitors Cast and people calling him out because he was Jewish, I called out about that as well. So I call people out when I see it fit. Like, yeah, of course, there's like times I'm like, I have to be careful, keep my knee-jerk reactions in check. But at the same time, you have to speak out, but at the same time, be more civil.
Yeah, and I think there's something
respect.
I think there's something also to waiting until you're in a better, like I need to wait until I'm calm before I respond. And I learned that from being a middle school teacher. Like in my second or third year, I'm like, what I'm doing is not working. So if I'm in fight or flight, my only job is to get out of fight or flight. Unless there's a tiger coming after me that I need to get out of the way of, I don't have to react. I can respond when I'm ready, because when I react, it's generally going to be negative, toxic, destructive, right? So we also, yes, we want to speak up and speak out, but I think we also want to ask ourselves, what's our intention behind it? Is it just to compete? Are we trying to win something? Or what is the intention? Is the intention to come together? I think that's important, because when we're in fight or flight, we're not always thinking about what our intention actually is. We're come from a place of, I feel threatened, I need to fight back.
Where everybody wants to win. You want to win. You want to change another person. And it's not your job to change the other person. And it's not their job to change you. And I find when I'm with somebody who's in a complete, that do get in political talks and they're talking about stuff that maybe I don't agree with, my comments just, that's interesting. I said, it's not necessarily I agree with everything you're saying, but I absolutely understand your feelings on it. And I think it's just changing your opinion or how you react to those people make a big difference to anybody. And that's even just in political talk. I think it's in conversations. You don't have to win the conversation. You just have to find a way to be okay and make that person feel like you're really listening and you understand, and then just carry on from it.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I want to go into the interviewees. Do you guys have any interviewees that stood out to you, and why did they stand out amongst people that you interviewed?
Okay. I was going to
got one.
Well, we had a fascinating situation. It wasn't even an interview; it was a dinner. We had it with a bunch of my friends. It was going to be all dudes, and then we had to balance it out. So there were some women involved, including Susan. It was in LA. It was one of the last things I think we did in LA.
Mm-hmm.
It was fascinating because I told you about the Iowa guy. Well, we also had a liberal who came in guns a-blazing. I know him. I love this guy. His name's Jerry. I can say his name. He's going to be in the movie. But he came in, cowboy hat, just ready to go. And I'm assume he had been watching some CNN, MSNBC, et cetera, and so forth. He was ready to make his points, but he walked into the wrong dinner because we were not there to debate. Mm-hmm. We were there to bring people together. So it became this really fascinating dynamic where Jerry was going and going and going. And Susan was kind of coming back, not at him, but to him in a certain way of like being curious, but also standing up for herself. You know, there was one point they were talking about something with Medicaid or something like that. And
Social Security.
And they had a difference of opinion. I don't even care what it's about or who was right. It didn't matter. But Susan brought up, my dad is dying. My dad is dying of cancer right now. And Jerry just went, yeah, well, I'm sorry about that, blah, blah, blah. And I said, Jerry, stop. You're on my side, like politically, but stop. Did you hear what she just said? She just said her father's dying, and you went back to like yelling and debating. No. And so it was interesting. And then Susan's grandson was there, who I knew when he was 10 on the reunion and is now a young man, 17. And we watched him grow up, and he took on Jerry, and he said, Jerry, let me ask you something. And without any attitude, he said, I hear that you're, watching these particular news shows, but are you watching anything on the other side? And Jerry said, whoa. And he said, no, but are you watching any of the other? It was just a fascinating conversation. And to Jerry's credit, and I'd love to hear Susan's point of view on this as well. To Jerry's credit, he stayed. He stuck around. And he did shift a bit. I mean, by the end, we were hugging. He and I walked out together. So I just, that's the one that sticks out for me.
I think for Jerry, I think he came in, and I understand exactly what he's saying. He's like, he told Dave, what do you expect when you bring Republicans and Democrats and you tell we're going to come in and have a political conversation? He said, well, of course I'm going to come thinking this is a battle. So he came in thinking that, and I understand probably where he might have thought that, but not realizing that the questions that were going to happen in the conversation was not to create a battle. It was to create conversation and talk about differences. And it was about, I think Jerry was saying they were taking Social Security away, and I said no. And I kind of said, well, why would my dad vote for somebody who's taking Social Security? Because he's dying from cancer, and it's all he has to give to my mom. And Jerry kind of, after he made his comment, then he kind of stepped back. But I understood Jerry's anger. He's definitely, there's extremes on either end. We have that. But I wouldn't even consider Jerry a bad extreme, because he wasn't violent in any way. He was just very passionate and making a point. And the same thing with the guy in Iowa. It wasn't violent. They're just very passionate and trying to get their opinion across. And I understand that. And you can't, like with Jerry, I'm not going to have a full out argument. I don't need to win my conversation with Jerry, but I did want to listen. And actually, he is a very nice guy. I mean, he got up, he's a big guy and tall. And, I gave him a hug, and I actually enjoyed his conversation. He does great things. He goes out and helps people and works the land. I mean, those are beautiful things. He just sees things a little different than the rest of us, and that's okay. And so that doesn't make me hate him, just makes me want to understand him more. And I would probably visit Jerry when I go out to California. We will not talk about politics, but he's a fun guy. I'd go out to. I mean, I would have no problem hanging out. And Jerry did say that. He said, if you brought us together and didn't tell me this was a political thing, he said we would all come to dinner and just have great conversation.
But then we wouldn't have had a great scene. So I get smart as a director too.
Yeah. But, all right. So that was to Jerry's credit.
All right. First and foremost, Susan, I want to say my thoughts and prayers are with you and your family at this time.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I will say real quick, one good thing that did happen with the RV breaking down. My dad, because my brother had 24 hours to get the RV to us. My dad from Iowa to, he could only make it to New Mexico. My dad got to come down with him and spend the first half of the trip with us. And my dad loved camping, and he has bone cancer, terminal. So it was difficult for him, but he did that. And I told Dave, if anything, no matter what happens with this, you've got video of us enjoying my dad. And I said, that is something we'll always remember. And thank you for that. So,
well, what's amazing about that is
yeah.
Susan and I were talking before the movie about like what's going to happen if he gets sick or what have you. And Susan said, we're going to finish this film, but it turned out to be the opposite. He came with us half the trip, and he's just an amazing man, just an amazing human being, strong, kind, loving.
He's a good guy.
Just an amazing, amazing man.
Thanks, Dave. Yeah.
And I hope you include him in some of the footage, because I would love to. I think that my audience and would appreciate it, and I think other audiences as well would appreciate it as well, because the thing is, there's like a powerful, like if that is like almost powerful, that is extremely powerful, and could be like an important part of this, like say of you guys talking about stuff along the way, and then like plugging in. It's like I'm glad you guys had that time.
I'm laughing. Thank you. He'll definitely be in there. It's a storyline for sure. I'm laughing because there was a moment when we left. There's a lot of funny stuff in this. Parents, they were standing outside, kind of like it was like a Norman Rockwell photo. And
just to give it back, you in Donaldson, they live in Donaldson. That's where we celebrated 4th of July. So you come back and see my dad in Donaldson at 4th of July. So go ahead, Dave. Sorry, I just wanted to give context.
As we're leaving in the RV, Susan's mom and dad are standing there like a Norman Rockwell painting, and he's holding a sign which I gave to him that says "Does not play well with liberals."
I mean, it was funny. But we're just all waving out the window.
Yeah, we're all waving.
I just hope there's photos from that in there, because I think that would bring a lot of people. That would make a lot of people in the Midwest laugh.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So I mean, and to Dave's credit, who came in, more Democrat liberal, he really enjoyed, and he wasn't sure how he was going to get along with everybody and was concerned, and he really did well. And again, it shows it's all about humor and fun and kindness. You don't, other than the fact that we're doing this documentary on politics, it wasn't, our friendship and everything isn't about politics. It's about friendship. And I think those are things that people have got to come back to and remember. Your family, your friends, who cares who they vote for? Don't talk about it. Talk about things that do matter.
And I agree, and that's the thing. Is like I was just talking to my friend Kate, who I've known since we were in 6th grade, so over a quarter of a century. And the thing is like I keep about my friendships is like I have friendships in my life that have ranged from 8 months all the way to 25 years, and with my in-laws, and maybe possibly 30. But the thing is, you hold on to them no matter what happens, because I've learned the best from my folks who have friendships that have gone to in their 50 years of friendship, and up to 40 years of friendship. You hold on tight to them.
Yeah. And you may not even know how they vote. It was never a conversation. It had nothing to do. I mean, years and years and years ago, nobody cared. It's just become this thing. And we need to get back to not worrying about that.
Well, what you say, Jacob, really strikes me, because I have 7 or 8 friends that I've lost over the years. Good friends that maybe I can get back and maybe I can't. But when you balance out the balance sheet of the good and how much you love them with the other things that are mostly ego, again, ego.
Okay.
You're right. It's worth having those people that you love in your life.
Absolutely. So one of the questions I want to ask before we wrap up our conversation is, why will Bridging the Gap be an essential film to watch?
Well, first of all, I think it'll be fun. I hope so. I think there'll be humor, a human connection. It's not going to be a typical documentary. And now I'm not in the editing rooms, but I'm assuming from my conversations with Dave and our editor, it will be, yes, it's about bridging the gap. It's about, political divide and coming together, but it's not a bunch of talking heads. It's a journey of a crew that was also mixed of political, and all the people we met and the things we did. There's fun stuff. All of this was just about going across, how can we all get along and just have fun? And then interviewing and hearing from people as well that really from East Coast to West Coast all feel the same. Would you agree, Dave?
I think it's exposing a lie.
No,
it's exposing a lie that's out there, that we all hate each other and we also be afraid of each other.
Yeah.
And this narrative that we're seeing on social media, it's not true. I mean, there's some of it, but again, we're seeing the extremes. And Susan and I realized as we went across, your extremes were 5%. We interviewed 100 people, and maybe a few of them came in with an extreme, energy. I think it's an important movie. I think it's a fun movie. I think we had a lot of fun with it. I think it is political documentary on its own is very interesting with what we're tackling of trying to bring people together, try to understand each other. But then you also have the journey of the crew, which was Democrat and Republican, was me and Susan. You're going to see, we had our ups and downs, and it was kind of a metaphor in a lot of ways for what's going on with the country. So, we had a podcast with Dr. Marissa recently called The Asian Oprah, and she said, I think it's the most important movie coming out right now. And, my ego goes, yeah, but I also do think it's important. And I think if it starts some conversations with people, go join Braver Angels, braverangels.org. It's in your neighborhood. It's an opportunity to start talking with people and coming together. Don't be alone in your silos. Stop driving yourself crazy. Go out with your friends, go bowling, go to the park, talk to each other. It's enough of being isolated. We got to come back together.
100% agree. I 100% agree with this, and I'm looking forward to seeing this documentary. And the final question I have for you guys, are you ready?
Yes. Sir.
Yes.
Where can my audience find out more information about Bridging the Gap, and where can connect with you guys on social media?
Go ahead, Susan. You're great. You did great at this last time.
Oh, no. Well, first of all, Dave's under his name says bridgingthegapmovie.com. Definitely go to our website. On there has all of our social media handles. We're terrible social media. I'm terrible social media, but TikTok and Facebook and Instagram. We have a YouTube channel. Go to those things to see. Also, we have a petition on our website. It's just, if people sign, we're trying to get 1,776. Find that theme.
The Declaration of Unity. So it's based on the Declaration of Independence.
Yeah.
Basically saying, let's come together.
And sign in. You can get some hats like Dave or some t-shirts, some merchandise if you like. But definitely follow bridgingthegapmovie.com. Right now we're in post, so we're going to have a few months of, some quiet, not a lot of movement. But as we start releasing maybe a trailer and start some clips, and as we start getting close to finalizing the film, things will get ramped up again. You get to hear you more, and we'll start releasing where we're going to be showing.
I also want to thank you, Susan. That was nailed it.
Perfect. Thank you.
I want to shout out again Beatrice, who put our website together and did an amazing job.
Awesome.
The website is red, white, and blue beauty. And then also Nikki, our wonderful social media person, who's she's just crushing it. So much fun, getting the word out, building our audience. So please check out our socials, collaborate with us. Share our socials with your friends. Let's make America united again.
Amen to that. And guys, if you missed an episode of the Jake Sick with Jacob Elyachar podcast, visit our channels on Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, iHeart, Spotify, and Spreaker. Jake's Take with Jacob Elyachar, JACOB Now, are you on social media? Because I'm on social media too. Facebook, Instagram, Threads, Twitter, and YouTube. Jacob Elyachar, JACOB Want to find out what's going on with America's Got Talent? What about the challenge? Want to see all my thoughts on new music reviews? Well, head to the blog that started all, jakes-shake.com, jakes-shake.com. And I'm thrilled to announce that Jake's Take with Jacob Elyachar podcast is a 2025 American Business Award winning podcast.
Yay.
I want to thank the entire American Business Awards judges for awarding my show the silver prize in the best interview talk show category in the inaugural podcast division. Dave, Susan, it was an honor and privilege to have you guys. I am so grateful that we've had this conversation, and I'm hoping and praying that we can bridge the gap and get us united once again.
Yes, spread the word, bridge the gap.
Thank you, Jacob. You're awesome.
You're so welcome. And guys, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time, everybody, have a great one. Goodbye.